let's deal with some common objections. So what would you say to someone that says that presuppositionalism is basically circular, and that it basically reduces to postmodernism? Every worldview starts with a circle, and so you can't escape that circularity, and so it's really just your worldview versus the other person's worldview, and there's really no way to get out of that. How would you respond to someone who says something like that?
I'm going to say, yes, there is a circularity in the argument,
sure,
but it's not a fallacious circularity. So there's a sense in which a transcendental argument assumes the very things that it's seeking to expose. You're depending on the foundations while you're arguing for the foundations.
Right.
There's nothing fallacious about that, but that's just the nature of a transcendental argument. There's going to be a presuppositional circularity there.
Here is PineCreek. He is our, I guess I can't call him local because I don't know where he lives, but he is an atheist, agnostic, skeptic sort of guy. And so he's made a comment here. If you need God to justify morality, then you can't use the observation of morality to justify God without being circular. How would you speak to that? Or would you agree with it? Or
no, I don't. It looks like a non sequitur to me. What the presuppositionalist is arguing is how do you account for those moral truths and our knowledge of those moral truths? So basically, I don't accept the premise of the objection here. I don't think that there's a kind of circularity. It's not as though you're arguing from morality to God and then arguing from God to morality in some sort of circle. You're not. You're starting with the assumption that we have moral knowledge. That's the premise of the argument, that we know that there are certain moral truths.
okay,
And then you're arguing from that to the existence of God as a presupposition or as a ontological precondition of those moral truths. But that's just the nature of a transcendental argument. There's going to be a presuppositional circularity there.
he goes on to say, if you need a transcendental God to justify transcendental logic, then you can't use transcendental logic to justify a transcendental God without being circular.
Given that we know that there are laws of logic, what must be the case in order for there to be laws of logic? That's a transcendental argument. So I don't even know what it means to a transcendental God to justify transcendental logic. If the claim there is that God must exist in order for there to be logic, well, that's the argument. That's not the premise of the argument. That's what we're arguing for in the argument. We're starting with the assumption that there are laws of logic, which I would hope an atheist would grant in the first place, that there are laws of logic. And then we're arguing that if there are laws of logic, then there must be a metaphysical foundation for those laws of logic, namely the existence of God. And that's what I argue in my paper. But there's no circularity there. Yes, there is a circularity in the argument, but it's not a fallacious circularity.